Good morning, everyone. Welcome. With all the people who are here today, I just want you to know there's no king cake. Sorry y'all missed out, those of you who are joining us. This time I'd like to have the roll call, please.
Dr. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Jasol. Here. Dr. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Gonzalo. Here. Dr. Houston.
Present.
Ms. Anna.
Here.
Ms. Moise is not present. Ms. Patrick. Here. Sister Carol.
Present.
Dr. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Williams. Here. Quorum.
Great, thanks very much. Now we'd like to have the guests around the room introduce themselves. Maybe we can start with Sylvia.
Sylvia Davis, Diocese of Alexandria, Superintendent.
Kimberly Morelli, Diocese of Baton Rouge, Director of Government Programs and Compliance. Emily Bisegard, Diocese of Houma Thibodeau, Pre-K-4 teacher.
Nicole Jefferson, Archdiocese of New Orleans.
Karen Powell, Louisiana Department of Education, Office of Early Childhood.
Barry Carter, Assistant Superintendent, Office of Early Childhood.
Nikki Landry, Executive Director of Policy with the department.
I'm Ashley Townsend, Deputy Chief of Policy here at the department.
Lana Hutchinson, Lead Certification Specialist with the LDOE.
Christy Blue, Director of Certification, LDOE.
Arthur Joe Freon, Department of Education, Deputy Assistant Superintendent, Educator, Talent, and Workforce Development.
Wow, okay, good sound.
Tavares Walker, Bessie, Executive Director.
Keith Lachey, Office of School Choice, Department of Ed.
Kevin Burke and Bessie, District 7, which includes Diocese of Lake Charles and Lafayette, and the product of 12 years of Catholic school.
So you got gray hair.
Melanie Mayu, I'm with the Federal Support.
Kenya Jenkins, Division of Federal Support and Grantee Relations, Director of Federal Support.
Pernell Cook, Executive Director, Federal Support and Grantee Relations. Good morning.
Good morning, Daphne Glenroy, State Ombudsman, out of Federal Support.
Good morning, Tony Legee, Executive Legal Counsel for the department.
Morning. Caleb Moore, Deputy Chief of Staff for the Office of School Choice, LDOE.
Good morning, Vicki Silas, Policy Fellow, Louisiana Department of Education.
Jermaine Gilson, Assistant Superintendent, Office of School Choice.
Good morning, Saber Keenan, Governor's Education Policy Advisor, State of Louisiana.
Hi, Erin Bindley with the Pelican Institute for Public Policy.
Good morning, Sandy Holloway, Bessie, District 3, which is Southeast Louisiana, and the Houma Thibodeau Diocese area.
Good morning, Simone Champagne, Bessie, appointed by the Governor at large. So I love to tell people I represent everyone. Thank you.
And Judy Armstrong, Bessie, at-large member, representing Nonpublics.
Great, thanks to all of you for being here. So now I need to an approval for the minutes. You all should have read the minutes that were sent. Dr. Houston, Sister Carol, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving right along. Our first item on the agenda is Mr. Caleb Moore.
Consideration of an update report regarding LA Gator.
So I need a motion to receive the report. Motion. Kimberly, second by Dr. Williams. Morning, Caleb.
Good morning. Thank you all for having me. Very excited to share with you some very good information about the LA Gator program. So what we'll go through today is a little bit about the Louisiana Scholarship Program, schools and family engagement on LA Gator, a little bit about our public engagement generally and communications we've done on the program, a little bit on the support information that we've shared a few times, and then the program participation information for where we're at in the program for now. So first, we're working to support the Louisiana Scholarship Program schools and families as they transition to LA Gator. As it sits right now, about 63 or 64% of the scholarship program students have applied and been marked eligible for LA Gator. What we're going to do moving forward is we're actually going to share rosters securely with schools. to let them know on a weekly basis how many of their students have and have not registered for LA Gator, so they can actually target their outreach one-on-one to families. As many of you joined and were aware, we had a webinar for the LSP families that was recorded Monday, January 27th. It was basic information about what they need to do, what they need to have ready, their transition into the Gator program. We had all the questions that were received there answered and made available on our FAQ website, lagator.la.gov, and that was sent to LSP schools and LSP families as well. I won't go through all these. This is some information about our email outreach that goes out on a weekly basis to LSP schools and families. As you'll see here, there's around 4,000 emails generally sent every week. Our open rates stick around 70 to 80%, which is incredible for email marketing campaigns. So we're very excited to see that the family and school interest is very high for this program. Public engagement opportunities. We'll go through the list here of some engagements that we've had, generally with the public that we've been invited to or joined to present on. With the Association of Public Charter Schools at a conference session. As many of you joined, Ed Choice had an LA Gator Implementation Summit. The Louisiana Scholarship Program webinar, non-public monthly calls, non-public council as we're doing today, communication with the LCTCS, Community and Technical College System, Supplemental Course Academy, some of the dioceses from around the state, and then support meetings with the top 10 LSP schools by enrollment. Other public engagement we've done, we have a newsletter that goes out to the general public. I think we're around 4,000, a little bit more subscribers. This generally goes out on a weekly basis. We'll have some more information about March, communication toolkits, application, and things like that. Again, we have a very high 60 to 80% open rate, which again is amazing for email marketing. This is some of our social media. We're doing boosted social media posts around the state, highlighting the application. Some of it focuses on generally what an ESA is, what you can use an ESA for, then information about applying for the LA Gator program. This is the LA Gator support information we've shared. I want to continue to emphasize lagator.la.gov. That's the key point for all the policies, program updates, and application links for families and vendors. Obviously, support is available by phone, email, instant chat, or support ticket on their website. So our milestones here, we are now in March. The student family application did open on March 1st. Parents will be selecting their schools, and schools will be verifying tuition and working with families in the interim, even while the application is still open. So that is the next step for schools right now. We'll be doing some additional communications to highlight what that looks like and the importance of that. The student family application closes on April 15th. And again, that verification process between schools and families will still be ongoing at that point. Schools will be confirming enrollments and setting tuition throughout June. Parents will go in and confirm those tuition amounts. And then we estimate sometime in early July, subject to legislative appropriation, this program will be funded. At that point, any students that are marked eligible, that are prioritized and funded, their status will change to, I believe it's eligible or active or something like that, but schools will see. Right now, they can go in and see that students are either eligible, ineligible, or pending in their queues. They will eventually see which students are funded, so that will change in status for them. And then the marketplace on Odyssey will be opening as accounts are funded as well. So I actually have a little bit more up-to-date information. This was as of March 10th, but today I'll share with you that on the first day we received 6,000 applications. We have 28 days until the application closes. Right now we have 22,459 student applications in. Of those, 19,629 are eligible applications. Around 3,600 or 64% of the scholarship program students have been registered and eligible for the program. 257 non-public schools are participating, and we have 143 service providers registered for the program. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions on this, but appreciate the opportunity to share information about the program with you all. Yes, ma'am.
Is the window still open for service providers to register?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So the service provider application, once that open, that will remain open. We'll never close that.
Okay.
So we review those on an ongoing basis. We're still going through a bulk of those. I think we have around the same amount in the review queue as we have that are already approved, but we'll hopefully be getting those approved as fast as we can.
Caleb, I want to say thank you on behalf of all the students and teachers and families in the state of Louisiana. You have been phenomenal. Your response has figuring it out as we go, but you have been phenomenal. Thank you. I do want to ask a question about service providers. So in the literature that was provided, it said clearly that uniforms would be considered. However, when we uploaded our uniform provider, it's not allowed, but I was told that we could sell uniforms at the school. I'm happy to sell lots of things at our school, but uniforms will not be one of them. So how will we work that out with our families?
So that is actually something that's under review by our team right now. We're trying to, as always with anything in this program, we're trying to reiterate and make sure that this works best for families and for schools and service providers. We don't have exact guidance on what that looks like at this point, but I'm happy to follow up with everyone on the council as we work through that. I think we really wanted to make sure that the family application was, launched well, the families knew what they needed to do. Now we're really moving into that. How can we improve the service provider portion of this? So more communications on uniforms specifically.
So uniforms may be allowed going forward before the window closes?
We're working on the allowability to have the uniform vendors as well.
Okay.
There's a few things that are still questions for us, but we do know that schools will be able to, if they choose to work out an arrangement where they do sell the uniforms. We know that that's going to be okay, but we're currently working on what the mechanics look like of the uniform vendors in the marketplace.
Thank you.
Caleb, I also want to follow with Mrs. Patrick said, and thank you as well. Just publicly, Caleb answered my phone call on Saturday, March 1st at about 10 a.m., and I'm greatly appreciative. Thank you for the timeline. It appears that when we identify the challenges in our non-public schools, the timeline appears to work very well for us. The challenge that we are faced with comes in July, because as far as the registration of students and how tuition will be paid, the hay is usually in the barn, so to speak. Once we get to July, of course, we have payment plans for students, but we usually already begin making payments in July. So the challenge that we're going to have to figure out on our end is how are we going to allow these people to continue, which of course we will, but then come into some type of accounting policy where we reduce tuition and allow them to continue. I know in our diocese we scheduled a meeting of our financial people on April 10th to try to give some clarity to that, but just so you and your office and others you collaborate with will know that that is the challenge for us in non-public schools, is making sure that we can figure a smooth transition.
Absolutely appreciate that.
Because our teachers and everyone deserve to be paid and on time, and we are on a tight budget. Everyone, I can assure you. So those are the challenges.
I appreciate that information. I know that this is very different than what schools have been doing already, so we're willing to join any calls, any meetings. We can have Odyssey join in on those as well to kind of work through what that looks like, what funding. I think we're getting that point now where the mechanics of that are getting figured out, so we're happy to communicate as much as we know, as soon as we know it, and then work to determine how to do it better moving forward. So appreciate that information so much. Thank you.
Has anyone found the crystal ball to figure out what the funding is going to look like?
I do not believe so. I believe the governor has, in his budget request, requested around $93 million for the program, but I do not have the crystal ball, unfortunately, on the answer to that question.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, I do everything.
Any further discussion? Thank you very much, Caleb, for all that you do for all of us and all the others that you're doing for. You're so young and energetic. You haven't turned gray yet, so hopefully you'll be a few years before you do. Okay, moving right along, I need a new business consideration, excuse me, of update report provided by our non-schools ombudsman, Ms. I need a motion to receive Lisa Patrick. Second, Dr. Baker.
Greetings, everybody.
Morning.
We have gotten off to a great start with our non-public LDOE, SEA, Titles 2 and 4 Educator Collaborative. This is one of the things that our work group said they wanted. And when we did the webinars to get input from across the state of non-public schools and programs, we wanted to be sure that whatever we were bringing in or we were trying to do was definitely items and activities that everybody requested. STEM was hot. The STEM programs, STEM-related activities were one of the highlights. And we had the opportunity to bring in Captain Barrington with his flying classroom. Though it is based on aerodynamics and also in terms of working with students from all backgrounds, one of the things that he does do is he will personalize the activities so that it meets the needs of the group he is working with. So when he came, everybody got a chance to participate in Our Pellets. Who remembers Our Pellets? Either from your classroom days or as a teacher, the discovery of what is, and I know that you do because we used to do those. Right. And something that was quite interesting called Green Towers. They're sustainable cities. And it is combining water sources along with growing plants, which in turn will help purify and clean the air. This is one of the pictures, and I highlighted this one because as you can see, her partner is steady working on the owl pellet to find out, does she have a mouse? Does she have a rat? Does she have a bird? Or what is in there? And the other one, as she covers her eyes, is looking. But as you can see from the picture, everybody was very, very involved. Also, one of the other things that we want to be sure that we are doing, and the LEAs are helping us tremendously, and we need your support as well, is to encourage attendance at conferences for professional growth, and also ways to close learning gaps and give a chance to network with other educators. Just know that Titles 2 and 4 allocations can be used, and if that private school teacher is a teacher of one of our private school children who participate in the Title I program, if there is enough allocation, they can too use some of that to also attend professional development. And the other thing that I want to express is, so can you. That's what Title II is for. You, as the leaders, also need to take advantage of that. And if we ever need to brainstorm and figure out how to make something happen, you know just to call me. Again, budgets, carryover, updates, and reminders, it's here. This is March. We're getting ready to roll into April. Your private schools are going to start telling you, hey, the LEA is saying their fiscal deadline is April 15th, but I need to do this, that, or the other. Or something is going on, what do I do? We need to have that discussion because April 15th does not mean the end. That is when the LEAs are trying to get everything that they need for that budget for the end of the fiscal year. We know that the program and the grant year ends in September. However, we want to try to avoid any rollover or carryover if needed. If it is significant, and it needs to be, then your private schools will complete that carryover form and we will move from there. So, what are extenuating circumstances, as we used to call it, that are now called what? Unforeseen circumstances that could cause an issue of a rollover or a carryover. It could be a delay in consultation, a turnover in the LEA or the private school officials, an unexpected budget or procurement challenge, not having qualified people on time, so you started the program late. Lower costs than expected. You ordered something, it was supposed to be at $2,000 and it came in $1,500. Also, changes with a vendor for professional development. Could be they could not get there, or the weather, or something happened, or you had to make a change within the school activities and day. Also, we're looking at changes with professional development and attendance and travel. And what that simply means is this. 10 people were supposed to go, only 6 went. Well, then that leaves a nice chunk that we want to definitely try to take care of. And of course, any natural or public disasters, emergencies, weather, so to speak. This chart is something that we want each of you to keep handy. And we are encouraging the LEAs to also have our private school administrators keep this chart handy, because it gives a very nice quick flow overview about carryover. When you can, what you can do. If it's redistributed, does it go back to the non-public school, or is it something that has to be redistributed to both public and non-public? And in the case of Title II and IV, thus far, with the United States Department of Education, 2 and 4 does go back to the large pot for public and non-public unless there was a reason why, that was on the previous chart, that the obligation could not be met. Keeping in mind that Title I is for the school district, the LEA, to use to provide your students who are eligible for services with their allocation. So that means the LEA is in charge of that allocation along with your what? Input. Considerable input, and that should be ongoing, not just at the beginning of the consultation period, but throughout. When you have your budget meeting, you can talk about programming. When you're having your programming meeting, you can talk about budgets. That is all encompassing. There is a carryover form, and it has been sent to each of you. The only thing that was changed on it was the unforeseen, taking out the circumstances. And this is something, as we say, that we do toward the end, and you should be having those meetings. But I do want everyone to start being creative in terms of grading and pooling allocations for services, because so much can be done to ensure that the allocations for that particular school year have actually been expended, if we would do a little of that juggling. So the LEAs have been working with the private schools. Some of the private schools are really coming up with some great ideas, and we just want to continue in that vein, not just in terms of the allocations at the school site, but even our allocations with our LDOE, SCA Titles II and IV that are statewide. So creative collaboration is where I want us to focus. New horizon for SCA Titles II and IV. Sessions that are coming up, and you can share this, and we hope to have people to sign up. Small group instruction, AI in the classroom to support teachers and students, disaggregating student data to make sure that the academic increases in terms of their achievement. And not just with the achievement of the students, but also the teachers' techniques, strategies, and skills. Resilient leadership, catapult PD sessions for educators, and we are looking to partner with our own department in reference to the LDOE Canopy Professional Learning Resource Library. Yes.
How are the decisions made as to what we're doing? I know the work group had input, and they kind of came up with the ideas for the sessions, et cetera, et cetera. But how do you all decide, like, finalize what's happening without consultation from this group?
The consultation from this group, as you know, any idea that you present to us, or what have you, that is taken into consideration. That is also shared with the work group. Also, when we have our statewide meetings, that are the webinars, that's also your time to also offer suggestions, make statements, even if you email me something.
Right, I know, I saw some of the stuff we have been.
Right, and as a matter of fact, and I don't think you would mind me saying this,
No, not at all.
when Catapult reached out to me, that was a connection between the two of us, also asking to see what do they have and making that contact. So they have sent some information. But what we have to be sure is that each vendor or consultant is approved by our state to provide services to us. So all of this comes from the work group mainly. So when those messages and emails come out about participating in the statewide webinars to give your input, I need all of you to participate and have your people to join, and many of you do that because that's what it's from. And then we look at it and see what is being asked. We even ask for vendors, we even ask for suggestions. We take that back to the work group, and then from there, we start making contact with people. And so as we make contact with people, they'll say, I can be available or I can't be available right now. So what you saw on the screen with that selection are people who have stated to us, we can be available from now until the beginning of next year. Now we have a few others, they're kind of on the back burner because they're trying to figure out what can they do if they can participate. So any suggestions, please send it forward. And thank you all for everything that you're doing to encourage this, as well as the participation for the teacher leader. We are having more participation. The registration still is at the same price. And what we're finding is some of our LEAs and the private schools are actually talking about connecting with each other at Teacher Leader. So thank you, thank you.
Last question.
Yes.
When do we get allocations for next year?
Your allocations for next year are already happening.
Okay.
And the LEAs are meeting with the private schools because this is consultation time.
Right, I'm
This
talking
is
about the
when-
SEA part.
The SEA part will be coming to you all real soon,
Okay.
so that you will know what's there and what needs to be done. We will work with Finance Department on that.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Cook?
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to add, as you all know, the Congress met last week and they met their deadline and there's a continuing resolution. So Ed was waiting on that meeting to happen so that they can determine funding levels. But we have not, states have not officially received what those preliminary allocations are going to be.
Okay.
But they do have, of course, the deadline of July 1. It'll be
Right.
before then.
Okay.
But at this moment, we don't have.
Thank
All right.
you.
Would it be valuable to discuss the situation that we have in our LEA with other schools? Is that something that's happening across the state, or you think it's just specific to
It's
our city?
It's specific to just a few, very few LEAs. A few people are using the state of the country in terms of services as a way to say allocations cannot be used. Yes, you are to use your allocations, and we will take care of that.
Current allocation?
The current
We were
ones,
told
yes.
that funds have been frozen because of the president's freeze on the federal spending, that we were told we could not participate and use the money that we have for this year moving forward for Titles 1, 2, and 4. And I asked Daphne before the meeting, I said, when are the funds going to be released? I've got lots of things other than the Title I teachers who are on contract. Everything else has been frozen. And she said, that's not true. So I thought that might be beneficial for the rest of you. If you've been told the same thing by your local, your LEA, there's a misunderstanding apparently.
Yeah,
So
no, it's just in a couple of places, and those will want to have been rectified, and yours will be as of today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Somebody else had their hand up. Yes, hey, yes.
I probably shouldn't even ask this because I should know, but teacher leader registration, I really haven't seen that like in the past. I've kind of disseminated that out. Where would we find that?
That is on the website, but it's also through the LEA, and I'll make sure that you have that information today, but it is on the website. I'll find it and just send it on over. Yeah, it is.
It is, but I guess I haven't picked that up.
Anybody else?
Any further discussion? Thank you very much, Daphne.
Thank you, Daphne.
I have a half second, so just a reminder that the Teacher Leader Summit early bird price will remain the price that you all will pay throughout the registration period.
Thanks. Okay, moving right along, 4.2, consideration of an update report regarding certification policy adopted as final rule. I need a motion to receive.
I'll make that
Sister
motion.
Carol?
Second.
Mark second. Well, I was going to give it to him.
Good morning. It's good to see you all today. We're talking today about policy that we brought to you back in the fall that was proposed. It became final rule on February 20th, so just wanted to bring it back in front of you so that you're aware of the things that changed in policy. So the things that you see on the slide: educational leader certification, out-of-state administration, computer science and STEM, a regular computer science, computer science and STEM for 1 to 5, computer science for 6 to 12, Montessori, updates to temporary employment permits, and praxis exams. All of those things were brought to Bessie and approved in October and were final rule in February. So just to talk through high level, a few of the things that changed. There were some changes to educational leader certification. What we did was we moved the competencies, the educational leader competencies, from Bulletin 125 to a new bulletin that's going to house the teacher competencies and the leader competencies. That is now Bulletin 146. The new performance expectations are shifted around a little bit. Since they were all developed, what was in 125 and what's in currently in 146 were all developed with national educational leader standards. There's not a significant change in the meat of the policy, but it's shifted around to align with our new evaluation rubric for leaders to make it simpler for our leaders to see the connection between what we expect as far as performance expectations and then how they're going to be evaluated in the evaluation system. So what this does is this means that those educators that you may have that are doing that portfolio pathway, that 240 clock hour portfolio, which was aligned to Bulletin 125, it's an action-based option where they provide evidence of experiences that they're doing these expectations that were in 125, they're now aligned to 146. So anybody submitting an application for educational leader with that 240 clock hour portfolio after February 20th, we'll be looking at it to align with Bulletin 146. We will not be saying, okay, because this was in 125, any previously awarded hours, you don't get those. We're not doing that. Because they're so closely aligned, anything that they've earned already towards it would still count. We'll just have to figure out what's left that they have to fulfill in the 146. Some other changes to educational leadership were our newest pathway, the alternate pathway 4, which is the principal boot camp that our division also puts on. We changed some things, tightening up the language. there was language that said just a master's degree in these areas. We broadened that to have graduate degrees, so anything higher than a master's degree would also be applicable for this pathway. We also put it in policy to allow it to have a pathway for advancement. It is now a 5-year non-renewable pathway or certificate for serving as a school level leader. In addition to that, we created a pathway for advancement. So there's always a pathway for advancement if they were already a teacher and they had the 3 years of successful teaching experience to move to that EDL2. Well, we've created a new option to where if they are someone coming from outside of education, like a military officer that has no teaching experience, they didn't have a pathway moving forward previously, we have rectified that. And so any leader serving on this certificate that doesn't have that school or teaching experience prior to, once they serve as a school level leader for 5 years and get effective evaluations, they have a path forward to that EDL2. Now, any of the teachers that already have the experience that might have fit under this pathway still have their regular pathway forward after their 3 years of successful experience as a leader. They can move forward to that EDL2. So if some of you are thinking of recruiting folks into this pathway, there's now a path forward. Some other updates that we did were for some of our other administrative certificates. And these were all done to align with law, both federal regulation and our state legislation. So one of them is the out-of-state principal, the out-of-state principal 1. We put in some provisions to where if they have a valid certificate to serve as a principal, they can be issued that OSP1. Previously, they did have to have experience as a principal to be able to be issued that certificate. That is no longer required if they have a valid certificate. Now, if they have a certificate that is not valid, they can be issued the OSP1 with verification of at least 1 year of successful experience as an assistant principal or principal within the last 5 years of application to us. Now, for those that don't have the experience, they can be issued a 1-year non-renewable OSP certificate to get that experience, and then if they earn an effective rating, then they can move on to that 5-year OSP1. So some things to align with legislation, but also some things to clean up the pieces that were not addressed in legislation. What if it's not valid? What if I don't have the experience? We put some things into policy to address those. The OSP2 to align with legislation, they do have to have at least 3 years of successful experience as a principal or assistant principal, and to move to this, they also have to have that praxis exam, and that is to align, as I said, with legislation. Now, if they have a minimum of 4 years of out-of-state principal experience, they could be exempt from that particular exam. And then the out-of-state superintendent, in addition to the other requirements that were already in policy, they now have to take that praxis exam for the Louisiana superintendents, again, to align with law. That was revamped. Computer science. So we have a new area, and this is in response to the computer science, was it commission, task force, something, one of those. There's a new area. So computer science and STEM grades K to 5, completely new area. There are several options to meet this particular add-on. Of course, just like with other add-ons, they can have the semester, 21 semester hours in the content area. They can do that. But in addition to that, we've added and adopted a new computer science and STEM exam for the elementary area, so they can add it with the exam as well. Or they can also add it with a BESI-approved micro-credential computer science and STEM training program. Now, the caveat to this is our STEM team is still working on that training program, and we don't expect any of those micro-credentials to be available until the fall of 25 and the fall of 26 for the different areas. So we're ahead of policy, or ahead of things in policy for certification for once instead of behind. So we're ready for it. When they have the credential ready, they'll be able to get that. And then, of course, because it's elementary, they still have to get that elementary PLT. And then to align with our literacy legislation, they have to have the 9 semester hours of teaching of reading and that teaching of reading exam. So that's for the elementary. For the 6 to 12 area, we already had the 21 semester hours in place, but we adopted the computer science exam, and there's that new micro-credential available. So the computer science praxis is available as an option for educators in an initial program also. Again, with the micro-credential, it's not ready yet either, but we're ahead of the game a little bit. When it is ready, they'll be able to add it on with that micro-credential. Montessori teacher certification. You know, we've had a Montessori task force, and historical policy was, it was non-public Montessori, then you can have the endorsement, this and that, and separated versus which area you're going to serve in. What we did was we removed that non-public terminology from the ancillary and from the endorsement area, so it authorizes service in any BESI approved school. We also aligned some things to legislation to allow the training programs that are approved, as long as they're accredited by MACD, then we can use those training programs. We had some conversations with the Montessori Task Force about what we had in our programming not exactly matching the training that was received, and so we're updating the levels to align with that. And then, of course, we had to add the literacy requirements to align with legislation. And this shows here for the different areas the semester hours that are required according to which area that it is. And they'll also, if they're ages up to age 9, they'll also have to have that teaching of reading exam. This is just a reminder that beginning in February of this year, we brought on, I say, they've been working for a while, but we have brought them on to the office hours duty rotation. And so for office hours, you might receive a phone call from someone with any of the area codes listed in the state of Louisiana. We have staff members that have phone numbers from all over the state. And so if you're scheduled an office hours appointment, please answer the phone from any of those areas during your designated time, because there's some new folks assisting with that. And then here on the slide, we just have the reminder of how you can do that, and the reminder that while our team has grown and we do have the capacity to be able to provide this privilege to you all as, you know, HR or school system representatives and preparation providers, we don't have the capacity yet to be able to offer this to educators. So please don't share that link out with educators or have them on a call. Educators, if I'm going to be completely honest, tend to just want to argue that it's not about problem solving, so we respectfully ask that you not include them on the call or share the link. The next piece, you know, we've been talking about the revamp of our system for quite some time. We did our phase 1 back in the fall, which was the question submission portal. Phase 2 is under development, and we hope to be able to launch it second quarter of this year. And we have some really, really exciting things that we are going to give you a sneak peek at today. Just to let you know, we do plan to have a small pilot before we roll it out full force, so we may be reaching out to some of you to participate in that and give us some feedback on, and we'll take some feedback from you today on a few things. But right now, I am going to turn it over to Lana Hutchinson, our lead specialist. She is key personnel in getting this system up off the ground.
Thank you, Christy. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are very excited to give you just a little peek at what we're working on for the new application system. This is not meant to be training. No need to take notes and expect to be able to, it's not even available for you to use, but we will be having lots of sessions, other monthly webinars, documentation that we'll create with how-to guides and things like that before we actually go live. But we would like to show you a little bit about the direction we're taking and some things that we're really excited to make available to all of you. I'd like to start by talking about the features that are important to our HR folks, our personnel management people that are dealing with applications and keeping track of certifications every day. One of the tools that will be available is a list of all your certifications. Even our non-public folks, you'll be able to create, we are creating the locations, and then you'll be able to tie your educators to your location so that you can go view a list of all of your educators. You see right there those little red circles or ovals there. Those are warnings that a certificate is expiring soon. So it'll give you an option to just kind of quickly scroll through, see who you need to maybe reach out to get them started on dealing with their certification issues. Those little blue arrows on the left side will let you click through to more specifics about any particular educator with a warning showing, or just somebody that you want to just look more closely at what they have on their certification record. When you do drill down using the blue arrows into a particular certificate, you'll be able to, there's a filter even on the top of each column. It looks like a little funnel. You can even click on that filter to find somebody specific if you have particular questions about that one particular educator. But you'll be able to click through some of their details, and then if they need to do something, request a renewal or a higher level certificate, you can click that Send Start Application Request. And it will let you choose which application they need to use, add a message there, whatever you want to ask them to do, and then send that request directly to that educator through the system with a link to the application that they need to start to make the request to renew their certificate or advance to a higher certificate. Then there's another picture of that little filter button circled there on the left that lets you search for individual people directly. When people have started that application, then they'll fill out their portions, upload their IDs themselves. You don't have to be collecting those anymore. Put in all their contact information, fill out the professional conduct form, indicate what sort of requests they want to make, all that stuff. When they've finished their portion, you will get a return. The system calls them requested actions. So you'll get a message that says they're ready for you to do your part. And then you'll go into the requested actions, locate the application. You can review what they've done, double check anything they've uploaded, make sure they've done what they're supposed to do. And then you can do the HR portions, whether it's verifying experience, checking the request, and making, like with some things like the non-public temporary certificates, you'll need to tell us what area they're teaching in, some things like that. Whatever it is we need our HR folks to verify, that will be on your own special form. Applicants cannot modify anything in the HR section, with one exception, what I'll get to in a second. And then HR folks can't modify anything in the applicant section. Once each person that's involved in the application signs their section, that section's fully locked, so no further edits can be made. So it creates a really nice kind of digital flow. So rather than emailing all these sensitive documents like that have social security numbers and other PII on them, it'll all happen through the Louisiana Educator Certification Portal. You'll be able to go to any, you see that first one on the left side there says application started. And if you click the blue arrow next to a started application, it'll show you the different forms, and those little triangles will tell you which ones have been done, which ones still need to be done. And then there's even a link there to go directly to the application itself, review everything that's been input there, and review it. Now, one of the places, and I've mentioned that there was one exception to the educator can't fill stuff out. One of the places that we have some questions for our HR folks about is first on the point about who starts an application. So I talked just quickly through how you would be able to go through, find them, and send them a request to start the application. Historically, those of you that work with certification applications know there are certain application packets that are only available to HR personnel. And we've done that over the years because when we had them publicly available to everyone, educators would just send them straight to us. We can't do anything. It was encumbering a lot of our time to have to respond and go back and forth with them. And so we put those behind your login because they have to go through you to get that done. This system's going to take away our concerns around that, because if it is publicly available and they start to fill it out, they can't ever get it to us without somebody signing that HR section. So we're not going to get bombarded with people coming straight to us. But if we make them publicly available, you might be bombarded with people, you have no idea who they are, where they came from, that just decide they want to work for the school within the diocese or one of the independent schools and just send you an application when you don't know who these people are or why they're applying through you to do something. So we wanted to get some feedback from you guys on how you feel about having those applications, pros and cons. If they're out there, you don't have to send them that request. They can just go get it started for themselves. If they do reach out to you, you could just say, go right over there and hit the plus sign and get it done. But cons, you might be the ones that get all those extra requests that we used to get. So some of the application types that we're considering, I don't know how, Christy, you want to count the votes, but
I have my pen ready.
all right. So I guess we can go by show of hands. One of the big ones that has our most high volume application is the renewal or higher certificate for the level 1, 2, and 3 teaching certificates. So just if any of you that work with the certification applications, how many of you would like to only get those if you have sent them that start application request?
We start the process.
Yes, you go through the portal and say, start this application. And that's the only way your educators can get to that application.
Thinking nuts and bolts of it, how would we be notified if they started it on their own? You know, I'm just thinking about the breakdown in communication, the way it's set up now. I think it would be better if it came from us initially, and we know to watch for their part of the process being complete, and then we would go in and finish our part of the process. So I do think that's probably best, so we're all on the same page with the start and end date of the application process.
If it were publicly available, the only way you'd know is when you got this action request for you to go do something to the application for somebody that maybe you didn't know that they needed to do that, didn't think, and from our experience, many times you'll look at it and go, why are you even sending me this? Your certificate's good for 3 more years, or why are you, you'll find that people, our teachers don't always know when it's the right time to start or what the right thing to start is, which is certainly a good place for you guys to be kind of the guides for them on that. So how many folks would really prefer for them to just be out there so they can start them on their own and you'll take care of them when they send you requests to do anything? So we got no strong votes for that.
But the problem is that leaves us where we already are, that they get sent back to us because sometimes principals think they can sign. Sometimes they can go find just anybody to sign them. And so
the system's going to control for all that. Only you guys, only the folks that we authorize as the people who can sign them will even get it. So they won't be able to send it to their principal. They won't be able to send it to their buddy that's the assistant principal or their teacher in the next room.
With the person in our office of the teacher, there's no middle people. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, yes. For the HR port, between the applicants and the HR portions, the applicant will fill out their portions and then they will tag your system or your independent school, whichever, as their HR, and it will come to only the people that you and our office have authorized as the people who can verify that information. So it's also going to control for lots of other incomplete things where we were having lots of back and forth because things were missing from applications, fields weren't signed. It'll control for we can do updates to these applications real time on the fly. So when policy changes, we can change the application. So no more that you're using the wrong revision. We had to update all the packets. None of that stuff. We'll just update it here. And then anyone that starts an application, they're going to get the most current version every time.
And I think it sounds wonderful.
The teacher preparation providers will also have a part in this?
Yes, preparation providers will also be authorized for their preparation portions. So when they're requesting practitioner licenses, resident teacher, the initial license, those will be initiated only by preparation providers. That's an important one where their candidates, they're still baby teachers. They need their providers to guide them through and start that application at the appropriate time for them to start their process. Practitioner license and initial will also have HR portions. So if you're hosting residents or practitioners, there will be a portion in those applications when the applicant fills out their part, the provider fills out their part, then things like the intent to employ, The mentor verification, that sort of stuff will come to you as a requested action as well when those providers have when everybody else has done their parts, and then you'll verify that those people did serve with you, they were mentored, all that sort of information, so we can make sure folks are properly certified. So we appreciate your input on that piece about the what applications are submitted by you. This is just kind of a high-level screenshot of what the screen will look like for the educators when they log into their educator portal. They'll have a whole big list of the applications there. It'll tell them how much each one is right there, a little description of what it can be used for, and they'll click the plus sign to go to the application itself. This is just one example of one of the applications as it's being designed. They're going to fill out the actual application itself right there in the portal. No more paper, PDFs, things going around. There are still a couple forms that we're likely going to need to leave as a PDF because routing them electronically is not doable at this time or would really push out our go live date. Things like the mentor attestation. There's no easy way technologically right now for that mentor attestation to go to the mentor. Mentors aren't, there's thousands of them, and they're not authorized representatives of the school system or something like that, like we can do with prep providers and HR folks. So the mentor attestation itself will likely still be a PDF document that gets signed. It doesn't have any PII on it, and it would then be returned to the HR office to be uploaded with your verification that they served their residency with your system. But most all of the forms will be here, with very few exceptions like that. We have this great ability to create these help pages. This information on the right side of that screen are help pages that we are working on. I will admit, initially, when we first go live, it'll probably be hit and miss on where there are good help pages and where there's not. There's a lot of them to write. There's so many of them to write. But we're working on it, and we can give step-by-step instructions for that particular form, different ones on every form, all throughout the process where we feel like they're needed. And again, we can update these on the fly. So if we're finding that people are struggling with one part or another, we can go in and update that help page at any time. So they'll make their request here. This happens to be the applicants section of this particular packet. And again, when they get to the end of their point and they hit sign to sign off that they're done, they are prompted with where are you employed? And they'll choose you from the list, and you'll get an action for you to go in and do your parts. So one of the key pieces that we have HR folks fill out, as many of you who work with certification know, is the experience verification form. There are a lot of requests where really the only thing we need from you is verification that they are employed with you and their teaching experience, so we can determine their qualifications. This is the one exception I mentioned that we are currently designing to allow educators to be able to contribute to. Not to finish, but to contribute to. So it's currently being designed so that the educator, when they fill out their portion, they can also go into, if you see on the left side that says applicant section and then HR section, they can go into the HR section, click on the experience verification, and go ahead and add some stuff. They can't sign off on it, they can't lock it and verify it, but if they do that, then when it gets to you, it's already kind of partially completed so that you can review it, see if what they've added there is accurate, matches your records and what you verified. One of the other cool things that will show here for your educators that have previously served in public systems, or any school that's reporting through the previously the PEP employment reporting system, now EdLink 360, I believe, is where they report it. If they've been reporting through those state systems, that experience as it was reported will show at the top of the screen and list out all those years that have already been reported. There will be a little button that you can say, yeah, that all looks good to me, import, and it'll just import that into the experience verification so it doesn't all have to be retyped. My experience with what's been reported in there is not crazy accurate, but in some cases it's really good and you'll be able to pull it in. Sometimes you'll look at it and say, this is a mess. It's not even worth copying it in. But you do have a little add new record button there. You can add whatever years you want to verify. Years in a non-public will need to be added manually, as most non-publics aren't reporting through those systems yet. But you will be able to have a little assistance through that feature. Between what the educator added and what you can import, we're hoping this will be a little bit easier on you guys anyway. So you'll go through and add that additional information. But we do also want to ask for you here. We've had different conversations with different HR offices, and they have different feelings on the subject of verifying that experience. Some people with our current system with the PDF tell their educators to fill it out so they can just review and verify. Some tell them not to touch that form, that will only be verified by HR. They want to fill it out themselves so that they're confident everything is on there is something they can actually verify for themselves. So we want to see another show of hands there. How many of you would prefer for the educator to be able to contribute to this with your review?
Say that again?
Yeah.
How many would you prefer for the educator to be able to contribute to the experience verification form, enter some information on it, that then when it comes to you, it's already got that information entered for you to review?
I would want that on yes.
Because it would not be considered verified until we verify.
Correct. They won't be able to sign off on it or do anything to it. And once you sign off on it, they won't be able to edit it any further. They can just only before you have done anything to it.
But I would ask if there be some like explicit instructions about how many years of experience have to be in the terms of the most valuable certificate, because that's a problem we see quite frequently. Oh, well, way to go. No, it has to be within these years.
Yeah, that's
also, like you said, that we do have a lot of teachers that want to, my certificates for this will expire in 7 months, and that's, in September, but I haven't finished this year, that's my 3rd year. So I think those things need to be explicitly stated, which I'm sure they probably are already.
Right, yeah. No, that's great. We haven't yet worked on the help page for the experience form. That's really good feedback to think about how we can communicate some of those things, what it's important to include and what it's not. I don't need to know what you were doing in 1990 in almost every case. I'm concerned about what's going on now. But we can definitely think about how we can make that clear on this page and see if it helps with the information that we get. So anybody that would really strongly prefer that the educators not be able to touch this form, that it only be completed by HR. That seems like a pretty rousing vote for letting them put it in as long as they can't verify it. So then the last thing that we wanted to just kind of show you, we know that when you get to this, well, let me finish the process. After you've signed your portions, assuming preparation is not involved in the application. If they are, sometimes it'll be you first, sometimes it'll be them first. But once all parties have signed and verified all their sections, the applicant will then get a notice that the application is ready to submit. And then we'll need to return to the application and go to the checkout on the left side there. And like an Amazon card, it's going to tell them exactly how much they need to pay. They'll put in their payment information. They won't be able to pay $500 instead of $50. They won't be able to pay $5 instead of $50. They'll be told, they'll just put the amount in for them. They'll put in their credit card information. The correct amount will be paid. They'll not, initially we're going to have an option to let people bypass the being forced to the payment site, because there will be people who already paid before we make the switch, and we're going to have an option. But in general, once we get past that initial phase, there won't be a way for them to submit it to us without the payment, all the things that we often have a little too much back and forth about because documents are missing. They'll just be sent there. As soon as they make their payment and confirm that submission, it will open a case that will be available on teachlouisiana.net under status of a certification application. You'll see that case there immediately. And then when it gets assigned to a specialist, it will be processed and that feedback provided in the fairly similar to the same manner that we already do. Although we are working on communication streams through this system that will notify all parties involved when the application has been submitted. So HR, the educator, and the prep provider, if all three are involved, and then also notify all parties involved when we issue the feedback, whatever it is, rather than it coming to you and then you have to share that with the educator. We're working to make sure that goes to everybody, so that everybody will have it. At any point during the process, there's also application review there on the left side, and that will let you pull up. This is kind of what although they look like web forms, when you're filling them out, once they've been signed, it creates this nice pretty PDF form with all the information that was selected and entered. At the end of this PDF are all the documents that are attached. So if the educators added transcripts and copies of their IDs and praxis scores and all that sort of stuff, all those are documents are lined up in a nice neat row. And then there is an export to PDF for those of you that prefer to keep a copy of applications as they come through your office. Once you've signed your parts, just go to application review, export to PDF. It'll roll it all up into one nice file for you to save in wherever you prefer to save it.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
I didn't see anything specific to fingerprints on the help side. I know recently we've really struggled with the new requirement apparently with teacher certification and renewal. So that's never been in a situation before, but we were told. And then there was some confusion on the prints go to the diocese and the prints go to the LDOE. So I wonder if, I think that would be a nice addition to explain that if the process has changed, to have that in the help notes and then a link for them to register for prints and be sent to the LDOE.
Yeah, what the system will actually do, so especially since that's so new, but we were really hopeful. We had a lot of technology delays, so we would get this rolled out at the same time as the CBC process, because what this will do is it will check when an educator logs in and tries to go start an application, whether you've sent them the prompt to start the application or they've gone on their own to the list to try to do it. It's going to check first and see if they have a CBC on file that's less than 5 years old or that clear credential already issued. If they do not, the only thing they will not see any applications available to start. The only thing they will see is a document that tells them to go get their fingerprints. So it'll have all that explained, code to use, where to go do it, that sort of stuff right there. And that's all they'll have access to until their clear credential is issued. Once that clear credential is issued, then the applications will be listed there and they can start whatever it is they want. So
much better.
It will definitely improve the flow of that criminal background check process and making sure they're notified.
And is that a school payment or a person payment for that certification upgrade?
For the fingerprinting, that would be a local decision. Typically, the educators pay it, in my understanding, because that's paid directly to Identigo. But if you want to pay it, have the funds to pay it, we don't.
Some of our schools reimburse
Yes.
the teachers for background checks.
We do. We pay for all the for hiring. We pay for all the background checks, but it's up to each individual school if they want to go additionally and pay for the upgrade. That would be up to them, because that goes directly to the code, to the State Department.
Any other questions?
Yes. This is not a question, just a comment. I feel like Simeon and Hannah, that God allowed me to see this before I died. This is amazing.
Oh,
For those of us who have been through the Ditto papers, like I still remember purple ink, this is great. Something that we've done that has helped in our diocese, Dr. Williams has one assistant, so they are a two-person show in the office and do an amazing job. But before our teachers check out in May, and everybody's ready to go, it's on their checklist. Will your certification expire in the fall? They have to go to it while we're in the final meeting, print it, okay it, give us a copy. And then we give all of those, all of our schools are doing that, to his assistant, Andrea. So she has the summer to work on the fall ones. Then the first day of school in August at orientation, we go back to that. Will your certification expire in the spring? Yes or no? Then we give all of those to her at that time, and she has the fall. So that has helped, because we had teachers coming in and out too. I didn't realize it expired last week or in a week, so now we're a semester ahead, which has really helped us and for their sake too in that office. But this is incredible. Thank you.
So at the school level, they say, so their checkout list.
Their checkout list, yes, at the school level.
And then people again.
Yes, enjoy your summer, but tell us if your certification is not before you know it. So that has helped. And then it's slower in the summer, so it allows all of us time to get that paperwork together.
So then I think this is probably about the end of the certification piece. We'd just like to remind everybody about the certification monthly calls. If you're not attending those, we encourage you to do so. There's a Zoom link for this that started for the 24-25 school year. You can find that on the school system support calendar to find all the dates. But the upcoming meetings will be April 28th, May 19th, June 16th, June 21st, July 21st. And we go over all this sort of stuff on those monthly calls.
So when this goes live, there will be some webinars.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because Effie will pass out this. I mean, it's wonderful.
But hopefully she will appreciate the changes.
Absolutely, but that's gonna, you know, instead of
The
just.
goal was first quarter, but we're only got a couple weeks left. So it'll be, we're really hoping it'll be sometime in the second quarter, just working out the last, like, kind of technical details and getting everything written and designed. But we're making good progress.
So total live, not just the pilot.
Right, so we'll have a pilot, hopefully in a few weeks. We will be looking for volunteers that are willing to test it out with us. And I think Dr. Joe Freon, can I give him your email address? If you don't already have it, he's arthur.joefreon@la.gov. He's taking volunteers. We are looking to get folks from big systems, small systems, single schools, good technical skills, bad technical skills. We want to get all kind of the whole experience and testers from all types of backgrounds so that we can make sure it's working as expected. And we'll have a few training sessions for the testers, but we also kind of want to see what happens when folks don't get a lot of guidance, because it should be, we hope, user-friendly enough that beyond some of the kind of advanced HR features type stuff, but just the general processes are easy enough that anybody who chooses to go try to submit an application can do so without a whole lot of trouble. So we will.
Absolutely, thank you all. I asked Michael Harris, who does certification in my office. He is grateful for all that you all do to support us and to help us make this as smooth as possible. But he is going to be like in hog heaven singing your praises when he sees all of this. So thank you for everything.
You're very welcome. We're excited.
Any further discussion?
I just have one certification question. Is there a list, is there data available to us to see the number of people certified to teach computer science as of today?
We can get that. I'll have to pull it, but I can make a note.
Okay. Because right now, we're starting the conversation, but I don't have one bite from anyone on my current faculty who are remotely interested in teaching it. And so I think that will help with, you know, when we have conversations with legislators about we need the teachers to teach it, but just that would be great.
I'll send it to our data team.
Okay.
That must know.
Thank you.
Okay, our last item on the agenda, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 741 non-public, Louisiana Handbook of Non-Public School Administrators regarding the health and safety of children attending non-public school pre-kindergarten programs. I need a motion to receive the report. Kimberly and Mr. Carroll, second. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, little update from last time. Last time I shared with you all just the initial starting point for the conversation. There was some concern that the policy for 3-year-olds in non-public pre-kindergarten programs, most of it hadn't been updated since like 2012, and there were some situations that occurred that were really bringing to light some questions about, is the policy what it should be, or is it time to look back at it? So you all decided to recommend members for our working group to look at that with us. You sent us some really great recommendations, so thank you. They engaged for hours on end talking through all these really detailed specifications, and it was great because you could tell they were really in the work. They had done it for a long time, and so we appreciate you sharing them with us for that perspective. They met a couple of times. They, in that first meeting, they looked through some revisions that our team put together, just trying to see some common sense initial steps that shouldn't be overly cumbersome for schools, but could protect safety of children. And so those went to Bessie in March. We just shared those with your chairs. And it's things like updating mandatory reporter requirement language in there to make sure it's clear that who that applies to. Requiring the training for mandatory reporters. It's already required annually, but just making sure that it's clear that that training is required, as well as updating some other training requirements for teachers initially, and then aligning that language with, or updating some language regarding bullying prevention, related to some questions that we had from stakeholders about information that it seemed like wasn't really clear to parents about, or maybe to schools, about what should be required in bullying policy. You know, we've been back and forth on the bullying policy a little bit, so we didn't put information in there about how those policies should read, but just those topics that should be addressed in local non-public bullying policy to keep it in compliance with the statute there.
Question, we had a question came to us yesterday from our legal counsel. Is CHC 603.1 saying that our staff have to participate in the state's mandated reporter training, or can we do our own as we do with all of our?
So this one makes it sound like you have to participate in the states, but then farther down in 609, it says that you can make your own that's equivalent. And so we've been telling people that either of those is okay. As long as you have on file that documentation that they've completed it and the list of employees who haven't completed it, the way it's worded. And then making sure that that happens every year during those summer months. It's like June 1 to August 31 that they have to complete that. And then a few other things related to supervision that are probably common sense. Most of the people on that working group said, well, of course we do this already. Who doesn't do this? And so they felt like it wouldn't be burdensome to schools to go ahead and put those things in place and just make sure that it was clear. So then they also took Bulletin 137, which is the regulations for licensing in early childhood programs. And they looked through all of those. Yes, thank you. This is the remainder of the topics that were addressed in my study. And they looked through all of those to see which of those would be reasonable to consider applying to non-public schools as well. And so, you know, Bulletin 137 is really long, it's really big, there are lots of regulations in there. And so they took a lot of time looking through all of those and saying, is this reasonable? Would it be overly cumbersome? We do this way at our school. Oh, this would be really hard to do at this school. You know, they really talked through all those different requirements like that. And so they came up with several topics that they did decide to recommend to address. Updating some definitions, a lot about written policies, like things that should be addressed locally, either some requirements that should be part of that policy or some decisions locally that should be made and written down and communicated out. And then some things about health and safety, food, nutrition, care of children. So I don't know if y'all had this draft in your materials that came to you. Yeah. I don't know if you had time to go through and review it at all, but we did really appreciate, again, their expertise and the level of detailed conversation that they provided to all of it. Next steps for where this is right now, you know, they wanted to report back to you all. Here's what they found. Here's what they talked about. Here's what they would recommend. One thing they said is they would recommend applying these requirements to 4-year-old programs as well. So we told them that we would share that with you as well. And then next steps are kind of the will of the council. So really eager to hear if y'all had any perspectives from that leader viewpoint, other things that should be changed.
I feel like I didn't have enough time to review this, and just going back to my people who are part of the work group, I had an email this morning at 8:51 that they have some concerns, because they haven't received the whole chapter with the recent revisions that happened in March that were presented to Bessie, in addition to the proposed changes. Like, they want to see, Bree and Sister Mariana want to see like the entire thing together. And one of the challenges is that, you know, because our 3-year-old programs are under Bessie, under the school, like, those are the policies of the school. And now we're singling out 3-year-old programs as if they're a part of licensing or a part of a separate subgroup, but they're not. And then I'm just confused because we're reviewing the whole thing, and the whole point, I thought, of the impetus was the bathroom policies, and I don't see anything bathroom related. And I haven't seen anything bathroom related.
Yeah, it was on,
Yeah, but I didn't, again, not seeing the whole thing.
right.
I'm a little, yeah.
So I'm hearing from you, it would be helpful to have a document that has all of chapter 30 with the newly approved revisions in there, and then also these proposed things into, so people could see what the whole thing would like look like
And
together.
can you send that to that work group as well, because that's what a lot of people are asking for, so I'm sure if they're asking, then everybody probably wants to see it.
And two, if y'all know, I felt like we had really great representation from lots of different types of schools, but non-public schools look really different from one to the next, so if you know of some other schools that we should get feedback from, or that they would, be willing to just at least look at the draft and give us feedback.
Still in draft.
Yes, ma'am. And so, so yeah, we can prepare that and send that to y'all and the work group, and then you can share it around with whomever else or connect them with us.
I love my early childhood directors to lay their eyes on it, right? And then we meet with them for, that would be another.
And I think it does make a difference if we're talking about the additional pre-K 4 program, because that's a larger encompassing group to all of our schools.
Somebody asked me about the disclosure of admissions criteria.
Sure.
It is in one of
The example that the work group gave when they recommended that, because this came up from them, is if it's a requirement to be potty trained before entering the school. And so if you think that's reasonable to have there, we could keep it, or if you think you would like to have that, but maybe some more clarity about certain requirements that might be listed, and leave other ones that don't have to be listed, or, open to whatever y'all's thoughts are on that.
So you're not saying it's a policy recommendation that they be potty trained, but it has to be disclosed and listed.
Right.
We would do it, oh yeah, we tell our parents.
Okay. That was the topic they were talking about when they put it on the.
Otherwise, we have some more to go.
Yes. I was just, why do we just do 3-year-old and not 3 and 4? I just didn't understand that.
Here. So the statute requires Bessie, in consultation with NPSC, to have policies in place to protect the safety of 3-year-old children in pre-kindergarten programs. Like, that's what the requirement is. And so I think when that was first put in place in 2012 or so, it was, here are the things for 3-year-old programs. But the work group really felt like all those things were reasonable to apply to 4-year-olds in pre-kindergarten programs as well. So if that's something that y'all would recommend, we could look at doing that too. So, do y'all want to add anything to?
So we felt like our pre-K 3 programs are pretty similar to our pre-K 4 programs, so that's why we felt like we can mimic most of the things that we had added or revised, should I say.
And we can put together that draft, and we'll note somewhere on there too that, the policy approved in March won't be final until, as early as July 20th. And so we'll mark that on the document too, like this is the part that's pending, and then this is the part that's proposed. And then would y'all like an opportunity, so y'all's next meeting isn't until July, I think. Would y'all like another opportunity to see it then and come back to the topic?
Yes.
Okay. And that gives us some time too, if you have other ideas for schools that we should engage, or systems or parts of the state, or like whoever else that you think we should engage too, or if you have something like another bigger topic that you'd like us to engage the work group around, we can ask if they'd be willing to spend some more time with us. So if you think of that, you can send that our way as well.
So if we have schools that we'd like you to solicit their feedback, do I just send that to you?
Sure, that'd be great. If you want to email educationpolicy@la.gov, we can set up something. Oh yeah, actually, if you want to send it to Shannon, yeah. And so if it's an individual school that you want to maybe like get the draft to them and they can set up some one-on-one time with us to talk through, we can do that as well. Or if you just want to include them, if the work group meets again, we can do that.
I think I would just like the individual schools that you just be able to directly give you the input.
Right, absolutely.
Thanks to you and the committee. And I think it's better to go back to the drawing board, and then we meet again on July the 15th, so that gives you time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and anybody y'all want to engage with, we've got time to put that together, and we can bring back, we'll bring back that compiled draft of all the things, and then a changes draft to you as a result of any feedback we get between now and then.
Any further discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have public comment, Dr. Bentley.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to address this item on the agenda. I appreciate the work of the department and the work group for certainly addressing health and safety issues involving 3-year-olds. That's very important. I guess before I get into specifics, again, my name is Erin Bendeley with the Pelican Institute. As many of you know, we tend to weigh in on a lot of issues related to K-12 education policy and educational freedom for families, but we also work a lot on regulatory issues with the state. At the state level and the federal levels, frankly, addressing cases where possibly government can become a little excessive at times in its regulation of private entities, and that certainly includes private schools. My understanding at this moment in time is that this is a policy that is officially going through the rulemaking process now. So unless anything happens, this is the version that will go into final rule. It was adopted last week by Bessie as notice of intent. So now we enter that official public comment process. So I will admit I was not at the Bessie meeting last week and wasn't able to share my concerns or thoughts at that time. I was recovering from a surgery and not allowed to leave my house yet. But I appreciate that this is on the agenda today, so I get to come and express some comments. And in full disclosure, I may do that through the formal public comment process as well. There's a lot of good in here, a lot of very good intentions about keeping kids safe, and we appreciate that. That is a proper role of government to address health and safety for little kids. My caution would be areas that seem to go outside of that priority. And I think through the process, and look, the tendency is there to look at something and say, oh, this isn't a big deal. We do this already. But do all private schools do these things already? I don't know. You know, the requirement in here about outdoor play space shall be available through a direct exit from the facility into the outdoor play space. I have no idea if that may require some additional construction to meet that requirement for some smaller private schools. I don't know if a survey has been done to ascertain that. That's a question that I would raise. Someone yesterday was asking me about, on the first page, having to disclose the admissions policy, and that shall include admissions criteria. That person read it not as what are the eligibility criteria to be selected into the program, but do we have to disclose internally how we make those selection criteria, and could that subject us to a lawsuit if we deny someone and someone says, well, that's not exactly what was described on your website and your criteria. So again, I'm here to just maybe urge everyone to spend a little more time with this draft. It is still going through the process now. Have your early childhood directors look at it, talk to your peers around the state, have your attorneys look at it. There may be a need, and there's an opportunity now to maybe tighten some things up and address some areas that maybe introduce a little more government regulation than maybe we would like beyond things that are essential to health and safety. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I know we take these matters very seriously. There was a comment about possibly applying these to 4-year-olds. And again, there's a lot in here that I think some people would argue that's common sense. But I'm here to also remind you, the law does not require the state to be involved in the regulation of your 4-year-old programs. Be careful when you invite additional government regulation that may seem, oh, it's okay, it's common sense at this point. And then when you need to change something later, you can't because you have enshrined things into regulations that have the full force and effect of law. So just be cautious in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, gang, we have 10 weeks of school left.
Oh, hallelujah.
I am. Take some deep breaths. Thanks to all of you who are here today, and we meet again on July the 15th. So at this point, the meeting is adjourned.
Can all members